Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit for Tuesday, September 20th, 2022. Coming to you from the beautiful North End. I'm Jer Stays, and across the table from me is
Fletcher Sharpe.
It's good to see you, sir.
Likewise.
All right, we've got a lot of sports to talk about. We're going to talk about the Lions. We're going to talk about a standout Eastern Michigan University basketball player that's in some hot water. We're going to talk about a new Tigers president, and of course, spend a lot of time with Detroit City FC. Lions first, 36-27 win over the Commanders. They were favored, by the way, by a 1.5 or something like that. I will note here that the Commanders were not DCFC because Detroit City FC exists with the same colors. Fun little trivia fact, kind of fun little local tie. Things that look good, things that didn't. I'm glad we're scoring. I don't like seeing 27 points on the other side, though.
Yeah, just a note to your point. Last year, for those wondering, last year the Commanders used to be Washington football team. They also used to be the Washington Redskins. Redskins is obviously very racist, and they finally had to change it. Good for them. They tried to become the Washington Football Club with those colors, and people were like, no, that trademark can't do it.
Right, Washington, D.C., so yeah. DCFC.
The Commanders aren't a good team. I know they're 1-0 coming in. They are not a good team. And honestly, the Lions, they got to win. Good for them. I'm happy for them. I'd like to see them always do well. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a great game. Jared Goff is not the answer. He threw 34 times, 20 completions for 256 yards. Yeah, 4 touchdowns is nice, but that's not good numbers. And I was talking with someone yesterday. They're like, well, as much as people want to hate on Jared Goff, he had a Pro Bowl year and he led the Rams to a Super Bowl. And I'm like, right. And they got rid of him as quickly as possible. I don't know if that tells you if, a guy's like, I'm taking you to the Super Bowl. And it's like, awesome. Now please leave. Joe Flacco with Baltimore, very similar. Let him do Super Bowl win. And a year and a half later, they're like, we don't want this guy anymore. Please get him out of here. We don't want this guy anymore. So I'm glad they won. I'm glad they showed some grit. Honestly, at one point it was 22-0 Lions. And I had a thought I said out loud in my own couch. I wish I didn't because it, could have came back to bite me. And I was like, they're up 22-0. Wow. It's going to be terrible when they melt down and lose this game. And they almost did. That's the crazy part is they had a 22-point lead and still found a way to almost lose this game.
Do you think if you pull Jared Goff out and you put in somebody better, you think you're going to get a team that's going to maybe be 8-8 or something like that? Do you think it's that big of a difference there at quarterback?
Yes and no. I mean, the problem really is they don't have – the offensive line is getting better. They're gelling. They're getting better and actually helping to make plays. Your leading rusher for the day was still Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's a receiver, 2 carries for 68 yards. Bad. Swift is going to be a great player, exciting going forward, but he needs a line that can block for him. And the Lions have not, they commit to the run, and it's nice they commit to show they want to run the ball, but you won't win NFL games by just throwing the ball the entire time. And I know people like to point out, well, look at the Chiefs, look at, Drew Brees with the Saints when he was doing it. They still had dependable running backs. Maybe they don't only pick up 50 yards a game, but it's fourth down, fourth quarter, 3rd down and 4. We need to get a run. We can give it to our guy. He'll get the run, keep the drive going. The Lions don't have that offensive package yet, so putting someone else in there besides Goff might fix it, but might not fix it enough. So it's really a whole collective offensive thing. The defense showed some grit, but yeah, 27 points to a bad offense is not good.
What are you thinking about the Vikings? Do you think we have a shot?
I worry about them covering the Vikings receivers. The Vikings have some studs there, Adam Thielen being one. I know they don't really have much else to go on, but he's a matchup nightmare for their DBs. I think it's going to be a close one. I think Minnesota might pull it out.
Switching gears, Emoni Bates is in some legal trouble facing gun charges after a traffic stop on Sunday night where he was arrested. The Free reports that Bates was being charged with a concealed weapon. The AP says he was also charged with altering the identification marks on a firearm. Both of these felony charges are in Washtenaw County District Court. He has been suspended from play from Eastern Michigan University. Now, this isn't just any old EMU player, right? This guy is somebody who was a real high-profile prospect that seems not to have been able to find a home.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Emoni Bates, he's from the Ypsilanti area, talented player. He won a state championship his freshman year over the best high school in the state, UD Jesuit Cubs, go Cubs. And we're like, okay, this kid is really special. Even before that, he was like the next coming of Kevin Durant. 6'8", 6'9", could shoot the ball with ease, can pull it from anywhere, can get to the hoop, lay the ball up through contact. Very skinny, but very polished offensively. Defensively, a bit of a struggle, but he was like a superstar. Chet Holmgren and him were going head-and-head in the draft class to see who'd be the number 1 pick. Emoni went to Memphis after committing to Michigan State and then decommitting because he just wanted to work on some stuff to go play for Penny Hardaway. Got to Memphis, played horribly, played a lot of hero ball, did not play well, had a back injury, quote unquote, that held him out. Memphis then went on a run to make the NCAA tournament without Emoni, and then he came back, and then despite him, they still played well enough to do well. After that happened, Emoni's like, I'm staying at Memphis. His dad's like, we don't know where he's going to go. He leaves to go to Eastern Michigan to start his new Phoenix arc of, I am showing that I'm mature. I'm more of a team player. I can shoot the ball and do everything. And instead of that, he's currently sitting in a cell potentially for a minute, awaiting what's going to happen on these charges. And it's really unfortunate because he was like the next great Michigan basketball player. And to see him kind of fall off like this, shades of Keith Appling a little bit, maybe not as heralded Appling as Emoni Bates, but it's really disheartening, and hopefully he can figure it out before it gets to be too late.
For me, what's hard to watch is to see somebody at 18 make these mistakes. I mean, there's so much life ahead, and like to get into this kind of trouble, you see it more than you want to, and it's just real frustrating because like I can't imagine, like I was so stupid at that age. The pressures of all this and everything else. Like, sure, there's the basketball side. For me, it's the human side of like, this could be real bad news.
And that's the part that like really bums me out, is not to throw my business out there on Front Street. My cousin is a baseball prospect. Currently, he is the 4th ranked prospect in the 2024 high school situation. Really talented kid, really great kid. And my short career as a professional athlete running track, like literally one race, but still I ran in college. I understand exactly what you need to be doing. And I've done my best to make sure that he doesn't make mistakes like that, because I've told him there are people who you have that are friends that like might want to take pictures of you in compromising positions, want to do other stuff to like not to put you in not the best light. So find friends that want to uplift you, find people who want to do the best to help you become the better you. And it's very clear that Emoni's circle around him do not have his best interests at heart, because if they did, they'd be like, hey, you don't need those guns. You don't need those. Don't do that. Or if you do, legally obtain them and don't file off the serial number.
Because he's 18. He could legally get them.
He could. And so just, it's so disheartening because you see these people, and it's like when you're coaching kids and you're like, there's the left path and the right path. You could go down the left path and do all the stuff properly, get everything you need to get, or you can go on the right path and screw it all up and be right back here watching us coach these next generation of kids saying that could have been me. And hopefully Emoni can figure it out with enough time, do something to where he can show that he's a changed individual and he's willing to take the steps to fix this. But I can only think of one thing. If he'd gone to Michigan State, Tom Izzo would not have played any of this at all. So in a way, I'm glad he did not go to Michigan State. I'm also glad for Michigan State to not have gotten him, because it would have been a very messy, much more public situation. And it's just a sad story all around.
All around. And I'll remind people that it is alleged at this point. Everyone's innocent until proven guilty, but it's just not a great story. Fresh in as we're recording this, there is news from Jeff Passan that the Detroit Tigers are picking up Scott Harris as their new president of baseball operations, currently the San Francisco Giants general manager. He's been kind of a rising star in baseball. I don't have a huge profile of him. I wanted to put out there just so that people knew that this was a thing. I don't know if it's the president of baseball operations that's going to fix this team. But I feel like anything's a step forward at this point.
I mean, yeah, similar to with the Lions and how they got Brad Holmes to come in and help being general manager. Like, he's a bit more in charge than I think Scott Harris would be, but he still has a vision that he wants to bring across. And like you said, he's a rising star in MLB. You take chances on this. Either he could be very big and you can have the next great young thing to help steer your team around, or you crash and burn for another 3 years and you figure it out later. Honestly, where the Tigers are at this point, it's worth a shot. It could work out great. It could not work out. We're going to hope for the best, though, because we need them to do something that's not, losing.
Yeah, and for fans, Harris has more of an aggressive style when it comes to picking up players and what he wants to do, and I think it might play out well for us. All right, let's get to the heart of the show. Detroit City FC in the playoffs. This is excellent news. Not just the win on Saturday, but also Indy got obliterated over the weekend. So that goal by Antoine Hoppeneau, that turned out to be a pretty big deal. It was a pretty thing to watch. 1-0 defensive, just slobber knocker of a match, but it got it done. 2 wins in a row that Detroit City wasn't necessarily picked to win. So, Fletcher, is this turning a corner as we're getting into the playoffs? Is this heating up?
I don't know. The game against Tampa was great. They showed the grit they showed against Colorado Springs. Of course, Tampa had a majority of the possession, as did Colorado Springs. But the difference was here between the first time they played against Tampa Bay was with that pressure, they found ways to attack the gaps. The way they play against teams with a bunch of pressures, they just absorb it. So it's kind of like you have a bag filling with water quickly. So we're going to take as much pressure as we can. And then once we get a little bit of a rip to go around the pressure, cut through the pressure, you push too far up, there's a little bit of a gap behind you, we can attack. So on the goal that happened, a ball came into the Tampa Bay half, got knocked up to the Detroit half, fell to Maxey, who had 3 or 4 Tampa Bay players around him. He decided to cut through the middle of it because he had a gap and some pressure. He cuts back to the left, has an opening, takes a few more steps, has a chance for a shot, fakes, and there's a nice little layoff to Hoppeneau, who gets a little tap in past CJ Cochran. Pressure breaking. And the problem with that is sometimes you absorb too much pressure and then the teams just start beating on you. The first time they played, Tampa Bay took 29 shots, about 12 on net. They scored a goal as a result of it because they just put so much pressure in waves and waves and waves. That's how Tampa Bay plays. This time, though, they found a gap to exploit, just like with Colorado Springs, and they were able to get in there and get the ball in the net, which then helps you out because now you can just sink back and play defensively. And it makes them press up more, and they have to worry about, well, if we push up too much, will someone sneak in behind us and do the same thing again? And it's a gritty performance that I like. Personally, my favorite player of these last 2 matches, unheralded very much, Yazeed Matthews. Last game against Tampa Bay, most recently, he put in a rating of a 5.9 on FOTMOP, which, for people to know, the standard rating for soccer matches is a 6. So under a 6 means you did not technically have a very good game. Yazeed was involved in 13 duels, lost most of them. He lost the most duels of any player on the match, which normally would be a bad thing. But as a forward, you're typically not trying to get stuck in tackles. You're trying to just get back, maybe score a few shots, do whatever. But the thing I admire the most about him is if you're not going to score goals as a forward, you need to do something else. If you're scoring 20, 30 goals a season, you don't have to defend. Doesn't matter because you're going to get a goal or something. But if you are not putting goals in the net, if you're not putting the ball in the net, if you're not holding it up for your teammates, you got to do something else to contribute. And Yazeed said, I'm not getting the ball in the net. I'm trying to do some hold-up play. It's not working. You know what? I'll make a lung-busting run all the way to the back, play some defense. I'll attempt a bicycle kick to clear a ball out. Then I'll run back up to the front to create lanes for my teammates. Then I'll run back and play some more defense. And I'll do this for 90 minutes. The best play for me was not the goal, which is ridiculous as that sounds, I understand. It was in the 95th minute, the ball fell to one of Tampa Bay's center backs who had an easy chance to make a pass, and Yazeed comes running from the halfway line to the top of their box to pressure him, and the guy kicks the ball out of bounds. And the reason why that's amazing to me is 95 minutes in a 98-minute game, because there's 8 minutes of extra time, and your forward, who's been playing the entire time, all gas, no brakes, is making lung-busting runs at the end of the match to prevent an easy pass that ultimately didn't even matter at all. It's the fact he's showing the grit and the effort that he's like, I want this playing time. I might not be putting the ball in the net, might not be doing these other things, but I'm going to show you why I deserve to be on the field. And it's very helpful to have players like that, especially when you're going to be pressing the entire time, because At the end, he was gassed. He bent over, and you could tell that he was like, oh my God, I am tired. But if you can have 11 players who play with that much effort, maybe some who might score some goals, maybe defend a bit better than that, but 11 players who play with that much effort, it'll beat 11 players who are like Lionel Messi in their prime all the time.
One thing I noticed, and some listeners noticed, no Pato on Saturday, no Pato against Colorado Springs. Pato Boteo Faz.
They're different players. Pato does not press like that, and against teams that are going to be relentlessly pressuring you and trying to do their best to like shove the ball down your throat with just possession and passes and shots, you can't have a forward that's not going to press. And I say that as a forward who does not press. Literally, when I play, I'm like, all right, I'm up top. I'll wait. Oh, they have the ball? Cool, I'll come to the halfway line, and I'll wait here. If a defender tricks back forward, I'll take a few steps past the halfway line, so I'm in my half. But I'm not going down there to play defense, because if the ball gets kicked out, I need to be up top so I can run, have an open chance to get the ball towards the net, pass the ball. I don't want to, like, come too close here and get stuck down here, because I know that I can't run all the way back up here. Pato, speed-wise, could not do that. That would be a very bad offensive tactic to have. Unless it was late in the game, sure. I don't know if Pato can press for 90 minutes, maybe for 20 or 30, but at that point, Yazeed was playing so well in his position that it would be an injustice to take him out and put a different type of player in. So maybe as they play a different team, they have Tulsa coming up. They have New York Red Bulls coming up as well. Maybe Pato gets in there because it's a different type of setup. Those teams are not teams that want to give you waves of pressure and attack and attack and attack. So maybe Pato starts those games. Maybe he gets in there and plays a bit more because he has a chance to not play his game as opposed to like put pressure on them and make them make mistakes. It's more of we are better than these teams. Let's execute our will, dominate with more possession. And while Yazeed can play that, that is more of Pato's game.
I'm really liking that we actually have the ability to make some choices like that now.
I mean, it's the evolution of, I don't want to keep harping on him, but it's the evolution of Yazeed. He joined from AFC Ann Arbor a few years ago, and he was kind of more of like a player like Pato, where he was more of, I score goals. I'm a very smooth, relaxed type player. Comparing to someone like Dimitar Berbatov, who played for Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester United, where he was more like a Cadillac, where he just never went fast. He never looked phased. Even when he was upset, he just had like the stoic look of, okay. And that was kind of Yazeed's thing, where he just had the look of like, okay, I can run a bit fast, but I do choose not to. I'll take it my own speed. If I can make a shot look a bit more fancy, I will. And this Yazeed is like a race car. I'm going in there, causing havoc, getting back, causing havoc, going over here, causing havoc. At the beginning of the year, I'm like, between Yazeed and Pato, similar players, doesn't matter. Now, very different type of player. If I want the guy's going to go in there, hold the ball up and get some teammates to pass and score, put Pato in there. If I want the guy's going to put pressure and allow us to execute our offense through somebody else, I'll have Yazeed. And people are like, well, don't you want a forward who scores goals? My perfect example, before we move on, France won the 2018 World Cup. They did it with a forward named Olivier Giroud, who everyone knows through English Premier League. Olivier Giroud had 0 goals, 0 assists, and like 2 shots on net the entire World Cup. But his whole point was, I'm here to be in the middle of the field, take the ball, get it to my teammates on the wings, and then get out of the way. I'm here to take up space and let them run, let them cause all the havoc they need to get, and I'm here to take up space and let them have all the lanes they need. And that's Yazeed's role right now. And if they need a player to do that, he's the one to do. If they need someone to score goals, that's Pato's role. And I think they have a bit of a symbiotic relationship where they understand that. And hopefully that can be the mojo going forward, because they're both going to be needed for this playoff push.
Before we wind things up here, New York Red Bulls 2, I feel pretty confident about that match on Wednesday. I don't know if we have a ton to say about that.
They should win. I'm not going to go out there and say 4-0, because it is an away game. They should win. It should not be. I'll say 3-1, 2-0. They should win that game, and I'll leave it there.
And then finally, FC Tulsa.
I'm sure FC Tulsa is probably a little bit crestfallen that they will not be going to the playoffs. They made a late push to try. It was kind of weird. They got rid of 2 of their really great players who helped make the run. JJ Williams being one of them. Other one they got rid of to Miami. So yeah, I was a little stunned to see that they did that and decided to try to make a push late. I'm sure they're probably trying to be playing a bit more of a spoiler. It's like, well, we can't have what we want. You can't have what you want. They still do have Detroit's boogeyman and Dario Suarez, who is a nightmare on the wings. He in his career, I think, has scored 5 goals, 3 assists against Detroit City FC, and he's made multiple defenders look foolish. Seeing him line up on the other side of the field, I'm sure the fans will definitely give him a very warm welcome. But I will never count a team out with him against Detroit because that's just, he turns up against them so well. But I think Detroit still pulls it off, maybe 2-0, 2-1 scoreline. They get up 2 goals. Tulsa gets one back late and tries to push.
All right, Fletcher Sharpe, good to talk with you, man, and see you at Keyworth on Saturday.
Definitely. Yep.